Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' Christmas and New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve sucked, but that's because I had a kid that got sick on 2 a.m. at December 31st, started throwing up, and was going at it about every 20 minutes or so.
Something going around.
So, yeah, don't have any idea what the deal is.
Something going around. My dad, same situation. He's elderly, and he wound up getting sick and eventually having to go to the hospital for dehydration, and so that was pretty scary, to be honest. But it's because there's some bacterial something or other going around.
And then just as I was getting ready to start cranking up on the New Year's Eve party, I had to go to juvenile intake and deal with a runaway. So, yeah, Christmas was good. Christmas was fine.
Good. Spend time with the
family. It was enjoyable. Took the day off. Don't ever do that. So, it was okay.
Yeah. Andy?
Week? How was my week?
Well, I mean, you had Christmas in there.
Oh, yeah.
And then after we didn't do a show, I had some specials that came out.
Yeah.
With a few different service organizations. They were really good interviews. And those are pretty much tapering out, and then this will come in. So how was your Christmas and your New Year's, Andy?
Man, good. My favorite holiday is Christmas. So I love October, November, December in general, but it was really nice, man. I got to just unwind, and about 3 days of that was, I had to touch a few emails and stuff, but for the most part, it was just hanging out with the family and cooking up our favorite stuff and had Christmas music and movies all day, every day in the background. And, Stacy she got about a 10-day break, which was really nice. And so she was focused in, and I was pretty much off, and we were just enjoying family time, man, and it was really, really nice. Yeah. Everything was just dead outside of our little situation, as far as I'm concerned, because I just didn't really get any outside noise, and it was really nice.
Yeah.
So
it's nice to do that. You need to focus on the family. That really is important, especially that time of year.
Yeah.
Remember the reason for the season. Okay, so we're going to do something a little bit different this year. I had a suggestion from a listener that said they'd really like to know what we're going to talk about before we start talking about it. So we're going to just go from the beginning.
That makes sense.
These are our topics for discussion. Jimmy Carter's passing. How bad was the peanut farmer anyway? Church attendance. Why is it plummeting? Where have all the drones gone? Biden gives clemency, commutes, or otherwise pardons close to 8,000 individuals during his time in office, including some for the death penalty most recently. MAGA Civil War. Is it a civil war or just a conversation? What will happen with immigration? Kansas legislature's in the crosshairs. What will come of Medicaid expansion and medicinal marijuana in 2025? And rage bait. If you haven't heard about it, that'll be at the end of the program. Just make sure and stay tuned till the end and find out whether or not you are a victim of rage bait. So,
almost every one of those topics, is rage bait.
Yes,
so there you go.
Well, it's interesting. They're hitters. They're top hitters. That's for sure.
And that's why it's at the end. So if any of this pisses you off throughout the entirety, you might be a victim of some kind of rage bait. Not necessarily because I'm the one that wants you to be that way, but because that's the way you emotionally handle the situation.
You've been conditioned for that.
Yes, very true, very true. Okay, so I just want to say first, I want to pick the two things right away because they're relevant to our opening. Obviously, Christmas just happened, and then also former President Jimmy Carter passed away. So I'm going to start with passing of Jimmy Carter. I saw that man lived to be 100 years old. You hear a lot about how Jimmy Carter was, the most horrible president ever, and now we compete with Biden's worse than Jimmy Carter. And we hear a lot of these pun things going out there. So I didn't do a lot of research or anything, but I just started Googling what was so bad about Jimmy Carter. I know things about Jimmy Carter that I think, man, I really didn't like that, and I focus in on that. But I'm trying to check my own biases and say, well, surely the man didn't do everything bad. So understanding that we live in a state in which we want to hang all of the negative things on a president that we didn't like, and that's all they are, versus being able to say, well, there is some things that they did that I agree with and some things that they did that I don't necessarily agree with, and then what's the effect of that, and they're on the tail end trying to fix a problem that they didn't create, and the whole thing. So I started to look at some of the things that Jimmy Carter did, and I'll let you guys weigh in on it first, but really, what was so bad about the peanut farmer, guys? I mean, the man is gone, and you still have a situation where people are consistently commenting like, hey, I'm glad he's gone, better dead than alive, all of these things. And it's like,
well, let me make a statement. Anybody who says, I'm glad he's dead, it's better he's dead than alive, F you.
Roger that.
I've seen it.
I mean, absolutely. The world would be a better place without you.
Yeah.
The world is not a better place today than it was just a few days ago. Period. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Jimmy Carter and his Carter Foundation have eradicated diseases. Show me another president who can make that claim. Jimmy Carter has built hundreds, if not thousands, of homes for the needy across the world. Show me another president who can make that claim. Now, are these things that he did after he was president? Yeah. Because he didn't go in there for 4 years, try and do what he wanted to do, and then ride off quietly into the night. That man is a beacon. He is the man we should all aspire to be. End of story. End of conversation.
Yeah. Andy?
You know, he was an American president, so whatever you want to say about him, he was one of our presidents. And so for that, that's a small club and a small group to be a part of. And I think you should cherish each one of them in their own way, good, bad, and indifferent. We all have all of that stuff in us. And I do think it's a tragedy when you start using that kind of speak against people when you're talking about you wish they weren't here or you're glad they're dead. I mean, that's just so dark on so many levels. And I just feel bad for the heart of the person that says stuff like that and doesn't check themselves, because they're probably not in a good space themselves to be in a position to say that. And maybe they're not focused on their own crap, you know, because if you're saying that confidently about somebody else, man, it must be nice to be perfect like you. Yeah. So anyways, he was an American president, and that is something that's rare air. And I feel for him and his family, and the decisions he made and why he made them, I will never know. That's beyond me, right? But the fact that he was in a position and had earned enough support to be there is a big deal. So rest in peace, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Whatever people think about you politically, I appreciate you serving our country for the time that you did, and I'm sure there's some good and bad in there. But at the end of the day, I feel like that generation tried to do more good than they did bad. So
yeah. Well, the man lived to be 100 years old, so I do believe that he was the longest living president or former president. So that's something, set a record, you know. Mm-hmm. But just from what both of you said, I something that came into my mind right before I read something was that we allow, as a society, we are really in a bad spot when we allow politics to dictate or being a human being, right? Like you may not have liked what Jimmy Carter did while he was president in office, but how does that then make the human being a no good SOB? So
I think I know where some of that bitterness comes from. It's some post-Vietnam stuff. I mean, he pardoned what people call draft evaders from Vietnam era. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from. Is one of the first things he did when he got into office. But when you take a look at some of the other things he was doing when he was in office, I mean, to call him the worst president ever, I'm sorry. The Camp David Accords that still stand today, which is why we have peace between Israel and Egypt, that is a huge accomplishment. I'm just saying.
Well, it's interesting, too. I'll say this, how there is a parallel of what took place then versus what's taking place now. the economy wasn't the strongest. People were really hurting. They wanted for there to be a change. And so then it was easy to target that individual. The nature of politics is point the finger at this other person to say that this person is the reason. It all rests upon their head. That's why you should vote for me. Reagan came in. Et cetera,
Reagan
et cetera.
came in and he was able to campaign on inflation.
Yep.
Sound familiar?
Yeah.
And he rode that all the way to the White House. There were people very divided because of it, because there's people, even back then, there were people who understood that inflation is not going to be solved overnight, and it didn't start overnight. And the decisions that prompted 14% inflation, 14%, that happened during the Carter presidency.
Yeah.
But again, inflation is this big soup with lots of ingredients. And so Carter and Congress started stirring the ingredients and stirring the soup, and they started getting that to ease. And it was actually on the decline during the campaign. But during the campaign, there was also negotiations for bringing hostages home from the Middle East, which, by the way, Carter actually accomplished. He got them home. Unfortunately, even though the deal was struck before the election, the hostages returned on Inauguration Day. Okay?
Well, and then there's the political propaganda that will spin whatever.
Exactly. And so all of this is going on, and so you've got Reagan campaigning on inflation. He was campaigning on the crisis in the Middle East, and he rode that all to the White House. And that campaign spent a lot of time blaming President Carter for all that was wrong in the world. And we're still there today. We still have people blaming him for all of that stuff. But again, he actually got those people home, and he negotiated peace between Israel and Egypt. And I'm sitting here going, was he the best president ever? No. Was he the worst? Oh, heck no.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Well, it depends on what side of the aisle you're on. But I will say this. After doing just some brief overview on Carter, I'll say this and read this. Carter signed several measures designed to address unemployment in 1977, including an extension of the Comprehensive Employment and Training Act. But he continued to focus primarily on reducing deficits and inflation. In November 1978, Carter signed the Revenue Act of 1978, a $19 billion tax cut. Jimmy Carter served as the 39th president and was the 39th president of the United States from 1977 to 1981. He was awarded the 2002 Nobel Peace Prize for work to find peaceful solutions to international conflicts, to advance democracy and human rights, and to promote economic and social development. So, next on our list, because it's close to Christmas and everything, there was a poll that was done that talked about how, I don't know any other word to say, but how badly some of our churches are doing. They're on the verge. In the United States, there are so many churches that close every year. Something put out by Cake News said that in the late 1940s, nearly 80% of Americans said they belonged to a church, synagogue, mosque, or temple, according to a Gallup poll. Today, just 45% say the same. And only 32% say that they worship God in a house of prayer once a week. Why do you guys think, if the data is in, that churches are closing, memberships are down? We just had Christmas. We know the reason for the season. We talked about that. Why do you guys think that people are leaving faith? And it's not just Christianity, but leaving their faith or not choosing to be a part of a faith today versus the past.
I mean, I'll jump on that. Of course, I haven't really studied deeply, but just my personal experiences and seeing where things are today, I don't know if they're leaving faith. I think there's a resurgence in the young kids today in faith, actually, from what I'm seeing. There's organizations out there that have been growing dramatically over the last 4 years, faith-based followers, and you're seeing more of that come back and come to the fold. There is a push against faith in some organizations and colleges and even in schools. And it's interesting to me that there will be things granted for some organizations like, trans rights and things of that nature. But then when a group wants to enact a Christian Bible study group, it is denied. And that literally happened in one of our local institutions here, which I won't say because I do love that place still. And I just think they're growing and transforming. And I don't know the details other than I know what happened. And it's a bad look on that organization, especially as a Christian college. But at the end of the day, I think people are watching church online, and they are trying to explore church in different ways right now with this new generation. A lot of people don't trust the daycares, so they're watching online so they can be with their kids. But then sometimes that online watching has them attend church. There's my sister and brother-in-law who ended up attending a church that they saw online that they really liked. They are avid members of that church now. They are involved. Their kids are very involved, and they go up there pretty much every Sunday to worship and celebrate together. And they love the kids program, which was a big draw to them, to get their kids in an active environment where they're stewarding the children. And so that makes it even easier for them to make that trip to Wichita to go to this particular church. And so, but I do know that they have friends that they've talked to that are watching it online. And so, and then I think we're forgetting how important community is. Being in church, a big piece of that is just drawing community together and doing life together and being a presence for each other while you're there, to realize that you're not alone. Because sometimes this world and the messaging will make you feel like your voice is not welcome. Yeah. And especially in the Christian faith. And for me, I appreciate showing up to my local church and seeing all the people there that I realize, and frankly, my church does not have that issue. We just had a pastor that went to grow another community locally here around us, and they took, I don't know what it was, 110 people with them, and we are back to the numbers that we were before they left, and growing. And it looks like we're going to maybe have to have 2 services here pretty soon. So, and a lot of the people that are attending are young people. So, I don't
take.
Yeah, I don't see that locally, at least in my little window and my little experience, right? But I have heard the bigger conversation, and that's been coming down the pipe for a while.
Chad, what do you think, man?
You ask 100 people why different people why they're not going to church, you'll probably get 100 different answers.
Good point.
Right down to I want to sleep in on Sunday morning. I mean, you're going to get it all. My church that I attend has been shrinking. My analysis of it is pretty much that they've had some really, really difficult and divisive issues over the last 5 years. Okay? Probably 10 years. And I think that the reason that's an important thing here is that each one of those issues was very different. And each one of them divided the church. And each one of them led to a loss of membership. Okay? So we had the worship style problem, right?
Right.
And we had and that's what they call it, but I call it, we had a stereotyping problem. So young people, they don't want to sing hymns. They want praise music. They want guitars and drums and loud music on Sunday morning. And old people don't want that. So we divided ourselves and created 2 different church services, thinking that our second service, which will be all praise music, it's going to be later in the day, and that's going to bring younger people, and we're going to grow there. And, old people are already up in the morning because we don't sleep. I'm old now. We don't sleep ever, and yada, 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 yada. And so, and they want the hymns. And so we'll grow that one because, other old people will invite other old people.
Bingo.
Guess what? Didn't work. Flat out did not work. So we went with this experiment for several years, and then we said, nah, we're just going to give up. We're going to go back to this. And we lost a whole bunch of people when we combined the services again. Then we have, on the heels of that, we have a member of the church who was accused of some abuse within his family. That's not the first time that's happened in a church that I attend. And that, of course, becomes insanely divisive because you've got people lining up. I'm on this. I think we support him, yada, yada. And then you've got, no, we got to tell him he can't be around anymore. People are going to be afraid of him for their kids. Yeah, and both are valid. But the church turns around, makes a decision, and now we have a whole bunch of people leaving again. Then it was last year and the year before when we were talking about inclusion. We were talking about how do we handle LGBTQ+. Okay?
There's a good reason there.
And we have two camps. We have the camp that is, who did Jesus exclude? Please show me who he excluded. And then we've got the other camp. Well, Paul wrote this, so that's the way it's going to be. And then when we finally make a decision as a church, this is our policy, one of those two groups of people.
Yeah. And then they go search to find somebody that they want.
So when you start talking about shrinking of the church, you obviously have to talk about the church itself and the decisions that it makes that leads to some of that.
That's really good.
But we also have to talk about the fact that there's not going to be any magic bullet answer. Because if you ask 100 people, you're going to get 100 different answers.
Well, and I think for me, my instincts are telling me, and you hit the nail on the head, and I think I was being a little bit of a pansy earlier, so I'm going to just unload. Those issues that we have today, the LGBTQ, and trying to make everybody happy, and national groups changing their way of operating over the last 10 years, really strongly over the last 5 or 6, where you go to the websites and you see things that most people aren't agreeing with. They're pushing those agendas through the church, and they're doing it to please versus to teach. And I will tell people this, that, one thing that Chip did at our church here locally is that him and Eric took and basically split from the national group and just told our church exactly why they did it. And the leadership that took place there was amazing because it was something they were communicating to us about. We trusted that the elders and Chip and Eric would do the right thing and what they were led to do between the elders that we all put there, right, to lead. And once they made a decision, everybody, for the most part, like a big majority, like 90% of people lockstepped into that position. And I think people were proud of that, and that word got out, and they started bringing friends. And when Chip preaches, he preaches from the Bible, not from his opinion. Mm-hmm. And he reads it to you and talks to you about it. Every Sunday, he leads with the Bible. He doesn't lead with himself and what he thinks the flavor of the month is. And I think those values are still important to a lot of people, and a lot of people don't like the hypocrisy they're seeing and what they perceive as hypocrisy. And when you can go to the Bible and look at things, and you ask people to debate you that are saying different things and they can't, and you use your own thinking of why you think you're doing the right thing, that's where I believe like a church like ours is winning more people, because we're not walking a line that says this is popular today. We're walking a line that says this is what God's word's showing us. And if you think it's different, debate the people that we put in leadership positions, and then they will bring that back to us on why the decisions are being made. And they're open to that conversation.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's a top heavy. I just talked to a friend of mine today about a traditional church that he's a part of that is changing some of their policies around certain things. And he is very disappointed in some of the stances they've taken. And to be real frank with you, one of them is the Value of Them Both Amendment. Why weren't they involved? And why didn't they choose to be involved when they have never not been involved throughout the history of that group? And then what they say they stand for, but yet what they didn't do has had him not question his, but question the organization that he's a part of. Yeah. And so anyways, and there's a lot of that happening today.
Well, I'll say I'll take the complete negative, right? But full disclosure, I attend a church. It's a wonderful church. Their mission statement is love God, love people, and serve both. They do that in a way that doesn't mean that, you know, we are okay with everything everybody does in their world, and you know, they're not to where we just have to accept everybody for everything they choose to do, no matter what lifestyle you want to have, and you love them, but teach them. But there's two things. One, I'm somebody that doesn't attend every single Sunday. Every other, maybe sometimes skip 2 or whatever, but I watch it online. And then not only that, I've said on the program before that I will watch other churches online too. So I might watch a church service on a Wednesday that was a Sunday for Chad's church. I don't know if you guys digitize. I'm not saying exactly Chad's church, but I've got some that I watch. Is that
considered church hopping in today's day lingo?
I guess I'm a church dualist. Okay, so okay. But on the negative approach, I'll say this. Everything is political, especially in the United States, and we're in a situation where people want to politicize every single thing that takes place, coupled with the fact that if they hear something they don't like, then there's always another church that they can go to. Instead of challenging their own belief system and saying, hey, you know what, is this a make or break, or is this just something I don't agree with? It's like we want to go to church to eat what we want to eat, and if they're serving something at the table that we don't like, we're on our way out the door. And I will say this, just a cautionary tale for some of you in churches and individuals who go to churches that seem to think that your church is the best, that you're the best, that everything you do is okay and forgiven by God, but everything else everybody else does is going to damn them to hell. I have said, and I will say again, I look at the individuals' lives that are going to a specific church. And there are some churches around here in our community that I would strongly suggest you do not attend. And it has a large part to do with how the people treat other people, right? The judgment, the condemnation, their sneaky, slippery snakes. Everything they do is okay. They can lie, they can cheat, they can connive, they can do all of these things. Because they're doing it for a good reason. Well, of course.
And you need to trust them that they have the bigger picture in mind. Yes. You just not as gifted as me in that way, because of my relationship with God. It's so special that I need to do these things to help you.
Yes, so I think you catch what I'm putting down. Okay, so just for what it's worth, but I will say this too.
I know a few of those.
They're around.
It ain't me. I'm a mess, but
I could tell you a story of actually asking 2 different pastors in this community to pray for me, and they both denied me. So I don't know why a pastor would ever deny just simply praying for somebody for guidance and wisdom and understanding when it came to a decision that they were going to make or what they were endeavoring to accomplish, that they truly felt that God was calling them in a specific direction.
Interesting.
And then if I see that, I would stay away from places like that. So not to get too personal, but on a positive note, not being so negative here, you know, faith is important. It's very, very important. Relationship is very important. So as far as individuals that are there on the fence, that might have had a negative experience with their church or a pastor, or maybe even listen to what Chad said and what Andy said, what I said, and it's very important that you find a place that you find a faith, in my opinion. So don't allow for the actions of some to cause you to throw the entire baby out with the bathwater. Not all churches are the same. Not all people are the same. There's a lot of wonderful places that you can go. I'm sure Chad would invite you to his church. I'm sure Andy would invite you to his church. I would definitely invite you to my church as well. So don't see what's going on in society. Don't politicize church to the point to where if they're not feeding you exactly what you want to be fed all the time in the way you want it to be fed, that you'll just jump off the bandwagon and go someplace else. Because after doing that so many times, you're going to wind up in a situation where you have no place to go, or nothing is going to be okay. So moving on to the next topic of discussion. I know you guys, we've talked about the drones before, and where they came from, and all this stuff that was going on, and all of these rumors that were taking place, and was it the government or not the government or whatever. Okay, but turns out us in the United States are not the only ones dealing with it. But I've got a little catch I want to say at the end too. It's unidentified drones over U.S. air bases in the United Kingdom reportedly prompted British senior officials to hold secret meetings to discuss the emergency, which could be the work of an enemy state. So it's not just happening in the United States. And I will say that one of the things that I thought was interesting that should be added to this conversation was that China made a deal with Russia, or China made a deal with Iran, that they would supply them with these high-tech drone systems that were able to be guided from a sort of mothership of sorts. And then they would be able to collect data and then pull data back into their system. So who knows what's going on here, but why have all of a sudden, I'll just say this, where's all the drone drama gone, guys?
Are they still flying?
Yes.
Really haven't heard much about
there's
it.
Reports, but they got to the point where they're starting to say don't report unless you see a cluster of 10. You know, that kind of thing. So I didn't stay up on it because I don't think there's, if we haven't found out now, we're not going to find out. I do think that, you know, you see the governor and the mayors get involved and really get on the pedestal and start talking straight to the government from those pulpits. I mean, you wonder if it's just they feel the political pressure from their local people. If they don't try to do something, that they're not going to get reelected, so they have to jump in and do their part and fight for their people. And you wonder how they're weighing this at that level with the political side of what that looks like. And it's sick, but that's the world we live in today, right? You don't just jump out there and start fighting. They calculate so many angles. They have advisors. They have PR people. They have all this stuff that they have to deal with. But they also know that, you know, if they don't come out and say something as obvious as it is, that there are people. And why did it take him so long to jump out and stand his ground and ask for information, which he has not gotten? And that says a lot from our federal government, and it makes me worry a little bit about, you know, who's holding the keys and why don't they want to communicate. And it creates a lot of anxiety and just unrest that I think is inappropriate, and maybe because they think we can't handle it, you know. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we need to start understanding what's going on. We need to at least be aware. And if we need to prep for something, let's prep. If we need to not worry, then tell us that and tell us why. And is it just because they don't want to lie to us? Because they really don't know what's going on. Yeah. And they're embarrassed because we're not as awesome as we think we are when it comes to protection. And you don't want to put that cat call out either, because then it makes us more vulnerable. Unless you go over Texas, you know, you probably don't have to worry about getting shot down.
Well, I tell you, there are some. I will say this: there are some conservative talk show hosts that are advocating, quite frankly, that you go out there and you shoot them down. What do you think, Chad?
Here's what I think. I'm going to go way out left field for you.
Go for it.
We're going all the way over there.
It's Martians. It's the aliens.
If it were me that was planning a war or some type of major attack on the United States, I would have done it last night.
Oh, 100%. I was thinking the same thing. I told my family that.
Yeah. I mean, you had 1 million people.
And different locations across the country, too.
Yeah.
With cameras on
but I went straight to Times Square, and that's where it would have started. I'm telling you. And because that's where my brain has been for like the last 24, 48 hours, it's just like, if they weren't collecting data last night, what the heck are we doing? And why are we so dang worried? And I've been kind of in this camp of, in my brain, of when did we as Americans get so doggone afraid of everything? I'm
that's what I was going to ask. Fear mongering.
And so, so drone sightings are diminished, to say the least. Let's just forget about it and move on. I mean, somewhere there within the bureaucracy, there needs to be somebody asking some questions about what the heck was going on. And we need to figure that out. But me, as John Q. Public in the middle of flipping Kansas, it's not my job.
Well, let's ask a question, okay? And I'm with you, Chad. I mean, that comes back to trust in government, which I don't have much. I'll just be really honest with you.
But I mean, straight up, sometimes
I don't know if I trust if they told us.
Whether you trust them or not.
Yeah, I mean, is that part of it?
Yeah, if they told us, I would be like, what is your angle?
Well, and not only that, but do you trust what they're saying is true? I mean,
almost no. So I mean, I would take it into consideration to what they might be trying to do. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, and even then, it's confusing. It's like a three-part issue
for me.
Three-part issue: fear, as Chad's talking about, trust of government, and then from there, I couple those together and say, well, is it possibly something else was going on and this is just a ruse to be able to take the focus off of what was going on versus, I mean, this is where we're at. We are completely, I mean, I am not trustworthy of government. Local government, yes, because I can touch those people. Yeah. I can have conversations with those people.
Or you see what's happening for what it is, even if you don't agree with the decisions. Yes. Or you see the mask they're putting on it. You see it for what it is.
Yes, compared to what's going on outside of my control in the abyss somewhere. But I will say, as I researched this, I found something to be somewhat humorous, and it's from the AP, and I'm just going to read a paragraph from it. When it was talking about a large number of mysterious drones have been reported flying over New Jersey and across the eastern U.S., sparking speculation and concern over where they came from and why. And I'm not going to say that it's not Iran, or it's not China, or it's not an alien invasion, or whatever the case, because I don't know what it is. But I will say this. The FBI, now here comes back to trust in government, the Homeland Security Department and state officials have been investigating, but officials say there has been nothing so far to suggest any drones have posed a national security or public safety threat. Furthermore, authorities say many of the drone sightings have actually been legal drones, manned aircraft, helicopters, and even stars.
100%. And that's why they're saying to don't report unless you see the clusters.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I mean, we've got people that are out here, oh my God, it's a drone. No, it's a star. It's a star.
Or Starlink.
Yeah.
Because our sky has changed, folks.
Well, and then not only that.
Thanks, Elon.
Well,
our sky has changed.
And maybe these drones are just companies that are testing the ability for, I mean, how did we get to this point? I mean, there are drones everywhere all the time, folks. Well, I don't understand. And people will be like, oh, Lance, he doesn't believe or whatever. It's like, no, I want factual proof.
Yeah, we're speculating out of our own shoes here.
Fear.
Well, and you just talked about, the Starlink, which is huge innovation. And there's a lot of risk to that in its own way. But, where do you spend, I think it's $3 or $4 billion for an infrastructure for connectivity, and we have not one person that's been put online. But yet Starlink's there, and we could have did everybody for almost nothing if they chose to pay a monthly fee. I mean, this is the waste in the government that we don't trust anything. And what kind of program like that are they distracting us from? Or what kind of policy do they want to put in place so you can't dig those or can't use Starlink because they have a special interest with the group over here that they want to get a contract for these other crazy overfunded government things that never get anything done, like the $1 billion that was spent in the Midwest for the 9 charging stations and 3 of them don't work. That's a big number.
Yeah.
And there was no results. And none of us know that's even happening. And it's sickening to me that all the time we have these distractions, I call them, and we don't get information. The reason is they're probably distracting us. What that's from, I don't even want to spend my energy thinking about it. I know it's something. And it's probably us, people. It's probably us for a reason that we don't even, it's embarrassing at this point. I've lost so much faith in our federal government.
They're flying drones because they don't want us to know that the alien invasion is ready. We're ready to start ID4.
You know
that
what?
movie is ready. It's there.
I think
the
you're onto
ship is
something,
right
Chad.
behind the moon.
I think you're onto something. And then I saw, and then as I was researching this,
So not telling us is going to make it better?
interesting what came up.
At least let me get my shotgun with some buckshot.
Yeah, my buckshot's gonna bring it down. I mean, come on, people. It's like, hey, okay, like I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that was taught hunter safety course or gun safety when I was.
I've done that.
But my dad always told me, what goes up must come down.
100%.
So if you're shooting something up in the air, just remember whatever it is going to come back down at some point in time somewhere. So I guess just use birdshot when you're trying to shoot the drones down and not slugs.
Just not right over your head,
You know.
because it's all going to rain right back down. I mean, it's just like a duck hunter. There's your duck. Wait. Okay, now.
Yeah. Okay. And here's the thing, okay? And then I have the question of, okay, so you get into ballistics. I know I'm going into the weeds here, but you get into ballistics and it's like, okay, how high is that drone flying? And then you think, well, it's real hard to judge a distance when you're standing on the ground and you have no frame of reference for what's behind you. So that could be pretty high up there. So now every time anybody sees anything up there, well, how far you're going to accurately be able to shoot? I mean, and then you've got windage, and then you've got bullet drop, and
Right.
you've got most
So you
people that
bring
can't
this up.
shoot 100, 200 yards with a rifle thinking, I'm going to shoot down this drone.
You got
So
people that
you're
couldn't shoot
bringing
100
up-
yards around
That's
here.
Right,
true.
exactly.
Bullet
And-
drop, weight, what it is,
you're-
it's all math. I mean, I
you're
was
talking
fortunate
about-
enough to understand it all, but
And
So
then you
you're
got
trying
people
to
that think
talk
they can
about-
hit something with a pistol with 50 yards. It's like,
Yeah. So
have you never shot anything, have you?
well, the weight of the bullet is this. It leaves the pistol at 1,200 foot per second
Watch too
or
many
whatever it
movies.
is, and then and because of the weight and the drop, you're looking at like a 2-inch. I mean, people.
So let me give you this tip, okay? If you're trying to figure out how high that drone is, there's a way to do it, and you got to do some math to do it. But number one thing you have to do, and this is a lesson from my days of model rocketry, you have to know exactly how far away from you it is.
It's a good starter.
Okay? Before the days of the little GPSs that we could stick in the body tubes, we had to measure exactly how far away the landing or the launch pad was from us doing the ignition, or more importantly, from the other guy that was going to use the azimuth. Because you've got to know exactly how far away that is so that when you hit your angle, you can do the math and accurately tell me how far up that is. So you don't have any of that information when you're talking about drones.
Yeah. Speaking.
saying.
Okay. Now, speaking of the way that the media, mainstream media, television, we'll call it, just incites people. There's something that a lot of you may have heard of about there being a MAGA Civil War. That seems to be the terminology being used. Okay,
I haven't been watching the TV news lately, so I'm missing out.
And then now we're talking about whether or not it's really a civil war or whether it's just a conversation. And the topic of discussion is that Elon Musk and Vivek, I think is his name, Ramaswamy, right? Vivek, I try to pronounce it. Don't my bad. If you're listening to the program, Vivek, then I'm trying. But anywho, it comes down to them trying to help the president or push an agenda, which is that we do not want to throw out the baby with the bathwater again. We know we are having a big focus put on illegal immigration and people and immigrants coming here and all of this, but that we don't want to exclude people from being able to get H-1B1 visas, right? Because we still need immigration here for people to do jobs. And I can tell you that, yeah, our birth rates are down in the United States. If we had no immigration whatsoever for the next 10 years, we wouldn't be able to run our economy. So, But there is a group of people in the MAGA movement. That's what you want to brand it that way. But I just think that there's a lot of people that are frustrated with the way things are going on, and they want American jobs to go to Americans first before they go to people that come here from other countries, and that's an understandable thing. But so now there's this rift that's taking place. Do you guys think, and I mean, it's kind of a pointed question, I just want to see where we're at here, but is all immigration bad?
No. But illegal immigration is a problem for a percentage of people that are coming over here that don't have good intentions or don't know how to produce or to pitch in, I guess is what I'm going to say, to the bigger vision, especially when you come here hating our country anyways. But yet you're coming here, and then you come here and you want to try to hate the ways of the country and our culture here, which makes that culture look bad because, you know, I love people in my community, but I have people that come here in the Mexican American or Mexican ancestry that I love and cherish deeply, but they come here and they're a little intimidated, and maybe they come across as disrespectful to our country, which doesn't look good. And we've got to have those conversations in our own communities and start, please don't do that, you know, because that looks bad on all of us. But I think our system is broken. Hands down, it's broken. We need to have some major revamps going on. I feel for the people that came here with good intentions, because it's most of them, in my opinion. Yes, they did break the law when they came here, but they would just want to try to work hard and have a better life and have some opportunity. And they're willing to do those things, unlike a lot of Americans, because we're comfortable. And a lot of jobs they take, Americans won't take. I know several people that have gotten into some of these jobs, and they worked for a day and a half, and some of them half a day, and walked out because they're like, oh, hell no. And these people will do this job for 20 years. And a lot of them come from my community. My family were pickers, right? Grew up working fields and stuff, and grateful for the opportunities. But at the end of the day, the system is so broken when you have people that it's just almost impossible to get their citizenship because they try to do the right things. They file the paperwork, they pay for the attorneys, they do all the stuff, and 10 years later, they're just still not citizens. And then you'll have somebody that comes across and has a different story and has a different line of command, or somehow their paperwork gets pushed through and they're good in a few years, right? Why does that happen? There's a lot of speculation around that, but we should know. And we don't really put Democrats and Republicans both enough attention in the right direction. It's a political football that's been thrown back and forth for people at the end of the day to get votes, I believe. And very few people will talk to you about that straight, that are in higher positions that can actually affect the conversation in a way that to get us in the right direction. And will this administration do it? I don't know, because they're going to be focused on pushing out so many people that are causing problems in this country. And people talk about how much it costs. Well, how much does it cost to keep them here? You know, some of these people are having $500 a night hotel rooms, and you know it's inflated because the government's paying for it. And so these hotel chains are loving that, right? But you got this stuff that's going on, and you come in with a thing of how we're going to take care of you versus we're going to give you opportunity. And I think when you start something off like that, it's really hard to change it midstream. And we've done a lot of damage that way to a lot of people. Also, there are people that have done, a lot of people who have gotten here and gotten in trouble. And there's a lot that happens when you go to a new country and you're insecure and you start acting out and you start, you know, drinking and doing things in a different environment and you get in trouble, right? Those people should have consequences and not be here if you're going to get in trouble. And they inflate, you know, some things that happen. There's been some horrific incidences out there that have taken place. There have been people that have literally, and this is not fake, you know, MAGA news. There are mental institutions that have been dumped on buses, brought here, and released in our country.
Our system. They're exploiting our system. They're exploiting the problem that we won't fix because it's a political talking
and it's cheaper for them to bring them here because they knew they could.
Well, yeah.
And then there's 300,000 kids missing. I remember people freaking out over Trump's 13,000 or whatever it was. There's 300,000 plus kids that we don't know where it's at. That's a problem. And a lot of those kids, there are some that have been tracked that have been put in sex trafficking rings to the tune of hundreds of the kids that they know of that were given to a place by a strip club that's a sex trafficking ring. And it's still operating. What the heck is that? So there are problems, right? We need to fix those problems fast. And it's going to be a lot of attention. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. And I worry about the unrest it's going to cause in the pockets of people that they're going after, because I will say this, there's lots of good people that are going to be around the wrong people that will be taken back to their country of origins, at least out of America, that probably could have done a good job here and had a good life.
They just get caught up in the mix.
It's going to happen. Yeah. It's not a matter of if.
Which then,
the problem with that is the media is going to sensationalize that part. The major, the big media, they're already putting commercials out to do it now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm going, I see exactly what they're going to do with that. But, you know, they won't say anything about these issues, but they're going to say a lot about these issues. And yin and yang, right? Dreamers, what do you do with that? Who's really going to fix that?
Well, it goes back to, before I send it over to Chad on this one, I am just absolutely astonished at this rhythm that we see taking place in our country that people are not picking up on yet. And it's that as long as there's a problem, the government will come and save you. They will come and they will fix it. But they're not promising to fix it the way it needs to be fixed. They're just promising that they will be the ones, if you give them the power, that will fix whatever problem or ailment that you might have. Chad, immigration, all bad, all good, or in between?
Oh, it's in between. And there's hard questions that we're going to have to be asking ourselves. Big time. Andy did a great job laying out one of the big ones. A surge in immigration has brought newcomers to every state this year. This is according to State Line, which helped offset a continued U.S. drop in births. Think about that. Texas and Florida dominated population growth for this year. They added more than 1 million people from mid-2023 to mid-2024. In those numbers, that includes births, deaths, immigration, and residents moving from other states. Nationally, our population was up from 2023 and 2022. And I didn't catch the name of this study, but there was a 21% increase in net immigration. Folks, we got to have people.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes there's not a nice way to put it, but quite honestly, I mean, if you're looking and you're saying we got to get rid of everybody, no, we don't got to get rid of everybody. We can't afford to get rid of everybody. And straight up to you, to that person who is disagreeing with me right now, I'm going to say it. You want your lettuce? You either pay somebody to pick it or go pick it yourself. So if you can't hack the job for a half a day, don't be crabbing at the person that's willing to do it for 20 years. I don't care why they're here. They're doing the job. So we need to pay them. Quite honestly, we need to legalize them if we can. And we need to move on. But mass deportation and getting rid of everybody is not the answer.
Yeah, and I think there's some signal sending out too, Chad, and I agree with you on more levels than you probably think I do. And I have people, just to be frank with you, in my direct circle of influence that will be affected by this. Extended family, things like that. That it's just not a good time for some people that I know personally. And so this hits really close to home for me, frankly, in a community that I love dearly. But and I know there's many other communities out there that I'm not accounting for it because I don't have experience in those. But I can tell you that the risk that some people are in, that really, that where they went wrong is they got here illegally. And there's going to be a statement sent out, right? And at this point, you can't play favorites. And that's the hard part. There's a lot of people that were here for 20 years that might get shipped out, that are productive, good people that have never been in trouble, that honestly, they would love to be a citizen of this country if they could. And I know some people that have tried that haven't been granted, and they work and they pay taxes and they do all the stuff and they just can't. And I don't understand why. And they're really good people, and they can get wrapped up in this thing. And that scares me. It makes me sad. It's frustrating that we have some jerks that need to be gone, and you have some majority of really good people that need opportunity. And how do we make that happen without sacrificing another group trying to come in here because they think we're going to do it again? This is the balance that we have to see, the hard conversations we have to have between each other, not to win, but to figure out what's the middle ground between standing our ground and humanity. What does that look like? And how do we be gracious but firm in our decisions? And how do we message to the rest of the world that you can't just come in here like that? But we do want people. But I also am going to say it. I think we need to choose the best of the best. We need to have a system that brings in better people so we can spill off into the rest of the world and raise more engineers. And then maybe those engineers want to go back to their place of origin and spill back out and create their own stuff. So they don't want to need to come here, because the rest of the world, we are very blessed here. There's a lot of the world that hurts a lot. Mm-hmm. And America is still a shining star and beacon. How do we steward that in the best possible way? Because we're not doing it right now. We're full of shit right now with how we're operating. We say these things and we get emotionally wrapped up in these little micro conversations when the big picture is we are so clunky and corrupt and broken that we can't even do this right. And we've been talking about this for 30 years. When are we going to stop talking and doing? Because there's a lot of dreamers in this country that don't even know their own country of origin, that I would love for somebody to step up and be a leader and allow them the access that they need to this American dream so they can unlock themselves fully. Because there's so many of them that are already pitching in ways that we can't even imagine. And I know several of them, and I'm super proud of them. I wish they could just be here, because this is the only country they know.
Well, I'll go here, okay? Because we are getting close, so I'd probably only be able to cover one more topic, and I want to cover rage bait. And I think I understand, because you're looking at it from a perspective that's rational, logical, looking at your own biases and whether or not you're caught up emotionally and how you're caught up emotionally. Because rage bait, it's so the two things we'll cover next week, just for everybody that's listening to the program right now, is the state of Kansas. There's two topics that we want to talk about before they get into their legislative cycle, one being medicinal marijuana and one being Medicaid expansion, whether or not we'll see that. And part of the reason I wanted to talk about that was because it's about 70% of people polled in the state of Kansas want for both. Want for Medicaid expansion, but also
Medicaid's even higher
for medicinal marijuana to be, and then there's some evidence that was recently come out, or a investigation that recently came out, that said there are a considerable amount of people from Kansas that are going to Missouri and getting some kind of a medicinal marijuana card or something like that, and being treated in Missouri for their situation, and then still potentially being criminalized in their own state here in the state of Kansas. So it goes back to that issue needs to be solved, resolved, or really talked about in a way in which a decision can be made instead of just kicking the can down the road, which is currently happening. In my opinion, it won't even be able to come to the floor for any discussion to be had or for a vote to be had on it. So speaking of rage bait, I heard this word, maybe I'm out of the loop or something, but there's actually something called rage bait, and I want to give a definition to it real quick so that way people can understand what we're talking about. Rage bait is an internet slang. Also, rage farming is the manipulative tactic of eliciting outrage with the goal of increasing internet traffic, online engagement, revenue, and support. Rage baiting or farming can be used as a tool to increase engagement, attract subscribers, followers, and supporters, which can be financially lucrative. Rage baiting and rage farming manipulates users to respond in kind to offensive, inflammatory headlines, memes, tropes, or comments. Okay? Another one, We'll just go Oxford Dictionary. Rage bait refers to content, typically online, that is intentionally designed to provoke anger or outrage in viewers, often with the goal of generating high engagement, likes, clicks, shares, and comments, essentially baiting people with anger to get their attention. It's considered a manipulative tactic on the internet. Okay? Everything that we talked about today, if you go and you look that up, 9 times out of 10, what you're going to do is you're going to find one extreme or the other extreme. And then because we're conditioned through these algorithms to be emotionally moved in either a negative or a positive way, and it seems like, you know, the negative way causes more people to engage or to be a part. And Cake News does it all the time. I mean, we fear and anger are synonymous. And so if you can get somebody to see something that's going on somewhere else or in another state or another community, we pick out these anomalies and then we bring that into our home, into our view, into our being able to engage with it. And now we're either pissed, and so we say something negative, or we share it, or we comment. So how much of this do you think is what we're seeing designed to be able to be honest and give people factual information so they can have a conversation with the facts? Or do you think that it's insightful in some way or another to be able to divide and get people engaged and believe that this stuff is happening when it's really not happening? It's just this extreme situation. And then that's what gets put out in front of people. Just remember.
Just analyze language use. Analyze language use. Let me give you an example. I could, and I haven't checked on the status of the Carr brothers in a really long time. But if there were action taken by the governor about the Carr brothers, the language that I use on that is going to be really critical. If I run out there and say that she just pardoned the Carr brothers, everybody's going to make the assumption that, oh man, they're getting out of jail. No, they're not. They've still got a life in prison. But we're going to have a whole bunch of people that get really, really angry. Okay? Never mind that life in prison for the Carr brothers costs me less money as a taxpayer. And it ends a big debate. It starts a new one, because then we start talking about the death penalty again. And you can, Gregory Moore, there's another one. Okay? I'm still mad at the jury in the Gregory Moore trial. Because I don't think, quite honestly, that they fairly debated the penalty phase of his sentencing. And in Kansas, when the death penalty is up, it's the jury that decides that, not the judge. But language use is incredibly important. If we throw it out there that they've been pardoned, the assumption is that they're going scot-free, when that's not the truth. If I were to put out a report that said they're going to live, but the rest of their days are in prison, and it's non-negotiable, and there will be no parole, the reaction is much different. And so much. I mean, just this week, I put a 30-day block on somebody on my friends book list on Facebook. I mean, I read the tirade, and I was like, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I don't want this in my feed. I do not want to see this the first time when I first wake up in the morning. I'm done. It was kind of like the final straw. So now, dude, you're on probation. 30 days, I'll watch you again and see how things go after you've settled down from this latest thing that's angered you so much.
This latest thing.
Yeah. Rage bait is real. And in order to deal with it, y'all got to start thinking a little bit. And never take everything at face value. They're baiting you.
Not me, Chad.
That's I mean, it's in the word. They're baiting you.
I mean, I need to do more rage baiting. I'm thinking to myself, this might be a beneficial business strategy. That's what I'm doing wrong, right?
So let me ask.
I need to bait people.
Let me ask this: if I do it, and I'm actually working a project right now. I'm actually doing this. If I do an update on the proposed US 50 and Meridian intersection, okay. If I do it incorrectly, I will be rage baiting people. Okay, the first time through, I witnessed that firsthand, and I did it right. But man, people were pissed.
Well, if you got a lot of engagements, you need to word it in a way that's,
So in the name of engagement, I need to rage bait everybody, right? I mean, I need to suggest that they're no longer talking about Cow Palace Road. I need to suggest that they're gonna, just build a huge roundabout.
They're gonna put it right over the top of Sand Creek Station.
I thought I was doing myself a favor back in the day, and I used to watch CNN and MSNBC, and then watch Fox, and I thought I was getting a well-rounded view of some stuff. I played that game for a while. I was one of them ignorant people. And it's been a while ago that I've done that, because it's like, well, that play's not working. And so it's been over 10 years since I've watched CNN or Fox, other than the blurps I get on YouTube as they pass by when they're trying to get you to click on the up-to-date news on there. They have those feeds, and my algorithms are kind of also to the independent people out there that I don't get too much of that anymore. But you get these Rachel Maddow types and these Como types who are masters at doing exactly that. Mm-hmm. And people think they're newscasters, like news people. And they're just out there doing it's basically a skit, just like a Saturday Night Live, but giving their opinions, their personal opinions of what they think their audience wants to hear. And they're real good at it, and they'll dig deep because they're all in. I mean, you pay them $2 million a year or more, they're going to dig that knife pretty deep, especially when they know their audience is loving it. The thing they're finding out is their viewership is almost nothing now. You will look at CNN's stuff, and they get less views than Joe Rogan gets in 2 days in like 30 days. And that math is not going to work. MSNBC is hurting so bad right now.
Oh yeah, they just cut Maddow's pay by millions.
Yeah. And it's not just that. I mean, their financial system is not working. They cut by millions already, but it also is turning into, they are in a dead spiral, and they are trying real hard to look neutral all of a sudden, as of the last 6 weeks.
And neutral doesn't sell, by the way.
It does not sell, but it also pisses people off that weren't understanding, because there's a lot of them. Those little bit that they had that are realized they were going on for a ride, and 20% of them go, "Oh, I was on a canoe ride I didn't want to be on." Where are they going? They're not coming back to you now. So you just conceded on something you shouldn't and couldn't concede because you went too long BSing people, and now you've been found out. So there is a shift taking place right now. And that rage baiting thing is coming from a small group that had huge networks that has been dying slowly, and they just got a death punch when they started trying to play the other game. When you have people that were calling Donald Trump Hitler, and then they go and meet with him, and they try to play it off like it was all a sporting game, you just pissed off a lot of your audience that was buying everything you were saying, and they think now you are hanging out with Hitler. Because your repetitions convinced them of that. Good luck staying in business, people. Good luck.
That's an interesting way to look at that. I'll say for certain that having endeavored in some instances to try to make a change with policy in a political way, i.e. running for office, that the nature of politics is, once again, demonize. It doesn't even have to be true, because by the time people find out it's not true, it's already too late, and people are guided by emotionalism and everything else. So just as we brought up the rage bait, same as clickbait, we've talked about on the program, be careful what you're engaging in. Like, have critical thinking skills and really guard your mind. I mean, now more than anything, guard your mind. So we're up for the end of the program here. You guys, what's your final word? What do you want to give to the audience before we talk to them next week?
This is probably the last time that I have the opportunity to do this, so this is going to be my last word. Congratulations, Slate Creek Elementary. I love every one of you people, and what you did for this town is absolutely off the charts amazing. And what you did for this town in and of itself, I could have reported it just one time. I really could have. And you still would have been my 2024 Newsmakers of the Year. It is deserved, and it is also deserved of being the #1 story on our website and of our year. And so congratulations, guys, and you earned it, every bit of it. There's my final word.
Today started early, sorry I was late, gentlemen. First meeting was today at 8 o'clock in the morning. Hit the ground running. It's the first. Hope everybody has a great 2025. Things are tough in my world, but they're as tough as you let them be. But I'm curious to see where we're at in 6 months with some of the things that are going on in my world. But I'm looking forward to being with you guys for a long time to come and bringing information and a different flavor to our community and pitching in the best way we can, which is sharing information, sharing our thoughts, and letting people know it's okay to have differences and open conversations. And this is kind of what it looks like.
I'll say this, New Year's resolution, go to thekansan.com and subscribe to thekansan.com. Okay, thekansan.com, and it's next to nothing. Okay, I literally, it's like $6, and you get 12 papers online a month, and it's like $20, and you can have them actual papers sent to you as well as an online subscription. What Chad is talking about, that is an amazing story. You need to go to the Kansan. You need to look up the top 10 newsmakers of the year. Chad does a wonderful job with that. And really the stories in there that talk about what those newsmakers were have some pretty incredible things, including what Chad just talked about for his final word.
How about we use your subscription? We open it up, take snapshots of it, and post it under this link.
I could.
I'm just joking. Dang it! We're gonna cease and desist from our buddy.
Yeah. Hey man, my kid's got to eat.
Hey, put that link over here. Well, put a link to the Kansan where they can sign up. Could you do that?
Yeah,
I could do that.
Oh, that's easy.
Roger that.
Definitely. So, Happy New Year, everybody! Happy New Year's Day, and thank you for sticking with us. And we're just continuing to grow. Not only with engagements, but comments and viewers and subscribers. And I appreciate each and every one of you. We appreciate each and every one of you for listening to the program, sending us messages. And we're going to have a pretty exciting year this year. I promise you that. You're seeing a lot more content and a lot more going on with what we're doing. So catch you next week, everybody.